The national debate. I'm Madhavdas G and viewers, what we're debating this week is a story of the dirty underbelly of our democracy. Even among highly sought after and reputed jobs like the administrative services, it appears the talented are being deprived of opportunities because of the high and mighty. The powerful and influential circle of privilege have resorted to fraud and fakery for their greed of power and personal gain. Here, the Babu Neta nexus will land you a sarkari job, no matter the merit. From Puja Khedkar to Chhattisgarh, all appear to be products of nepotism, undermining and betraying Bharat. We ask you this as the government cracks the whip against Puja. The probationary officer's IAS training has been put on hold and she's been called back to the academy. She's the daughter of a former civil servant and leader of Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi party. She's allegedly faked her address, name and income to clinch an IAS post under the OBC category. Then it surfaced that she even faked medical certificates to claim that she's visually impaired and mentally ill. Being the daughter of a politician and a Babu comes with perks. But it's not just one person. There are at least 17 other Puja Khedkars now surfacing in Chhattisgarh. And we'll tell you about the cozy club of politicians and bureaucrats under the Congress regime, allegedly doled out plump government posts to their own daughters and sons. And let's give you a sense of how grave the violations are when it comes to Puja Khedkar. These are the details that we're going to quickly show to you as far as her income is concerned. There are several discrepancies surrounding the income of Puja Khedkar. The personal income is at 5 lakhs. This is what has been registered, and of course details of that very much present over here. If we can look at the kind of properties, the income from properties jumps heavily to 42 lakhs as it is given over here. And the number of properties listed, several of them from 6 to 8 crores for a trainee IAS officer purchased, some of them gifted by mother. But how could someone have purchased so much of property is a big question indeed that arises from the case of Puja Khedkar. Let's quickly also bring you the next set of graphics, which are really about what the centre's one-member panel is probing. These are the 5 probes essentially that are being carried out against Puja Khedkar. They are probing the candidature claims on the fake OBC quota. The next probe that is there against Puja Khedkar is about the Maharashtra Board of Disability Welfare probing the medical documents under the physical disability quota. The status of this is also pending. The third probe is by the Department of Personnel and Training. They are probing the misuse of power and misrepresentation to the UPSC. The fourth probe that is being looked at is by the Ahmednagar collector, probing the income and property for non-creamy layer claim that has been made allegedly fraudulently. The fifth probe we are looking at is by the Pune police and the RTO, who are probing the misuse of beacon and violation of the traffic rules. Let's quickly introduce our panel and take this across to them as well. We have with us Mr. M Jamshed, who's a former administrative member of the Central Administrative Tribunal. With us also is Yashovardhan Azad, former IPS officer. Also with us is Dr Vikram Singh, retired IPS officer. Dr SY Quraishi is a former CEC of India. With us also is TS Singh Deo, former Deputy Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh. Karan Verma, author, is with us here in our studio. Advocate Sushil Vyas, spokesperson of the Shiv Sena, is joining us from Mumbai. Let me start with you first, Mr. Jamshed. Have you heard of such a case where there's not one, not two, but at least appears to be 5 or 6 violations as we've just read out? And the number of violations appear to be staggering. It appears that, from the UPSC to the CAT to the academy where she studied, finally it took her to be on ground and actually start practicing or serving as a trainee IAS officer for all of these skeletons to tumble out of the closet. What do you make of this case to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely unheard of, and this kind of thing that we have never seen. In fact, having spent about 42 years in the services, and also the last 5 years when I was looking at adjudicating the service matters, we never came across these kinds of cases. At the same time, today, if we are we debating the Puja Khedkar's property and various kinds of other adventures that have been shown here, or is it that we are talking about her selection in the UP through the UPSC and DOPT and having been allocated the IAS, and whether that should have been done or it should not have been done? Because that's the moot point that we have.
Yes.
And if that point on assumptions and on kinds of information that is coming out, whether that can be taken on face value or whether this is to be judged by an inquiry committee or, for that matter, a court.
What do you make of this, Mr. Vikram Singh? Because,
Thank you very much. I don't take it on face value. This has to be taken on face value. You have opened a can of worms and exposed a school of scandal. And as they say in the court-martial proceedings, there's a difference between a high court judge and the difference between departmental action. The overwhelming evidence that you have, of nepotism, corruption, and depredations of the worst kind, I think the earliest thing that we can do, which I have seen in my lifetime, in my career also, dismissal first, other things can follow later. We cannot allow this kind of scandalous conduct to vitiate the atmosphere of the bureaucracy and of the nation. People are looking at the IAS and the civil service, the highest civil service in the country, not because they're the likes of Puja, but yes, there should be zero tolerance to corruption and corrupt practices. Inquiry, by all means, there should be inquiry, but 72 hours, not the 73rd hour. It doesn't require more than 72 hours.
Mr. Quraishi, 2 weeks have transpired since the first news came out, and there's so many details, so many documents, various affidavits that have been submitted before the CAT, for instance. In the period of 3 years, her age increases by only 1 year. The number of violations is just one, but so many violations that have been spoken about, but yet no action. Why is that the case in this particular case?
First of all, I would like to express my admiration for the lady. She is very brave, very bold, very intelligent, very creative. All kinds of qualities she has shown, but in a negative way. Regarding your other question, I think things are moving very fast, faster than they normally do in the government. Only one thing is very questionable. Sending her to the National Academy of Administration, to me, makes no sense. Academy is only a training school. Where DOPT appoints you through UPSC exam and whichever method, and you send them to a school to train. So academy has nothing to do with all that. She should have been reverted to DOPT. They would have taken the action for all the fraud which you have just now listed. So that is the only thing. Otherwise, I think things are moving pretty fast. And I have not seen any attempt to cover up, which normally happen with politicians or bureaucrats, children. That kind of pressure, at least is not visible to me.
Right. Mr. Azad, not just the fact that she has faked caste certificates, she's also faking disability certificates. And that really is extremely tragic, because a meritorious disabled candidate could have actually got the job that she has, if she had not done this. And that's truly a disservice. And that's the reason why we have quotas to weaker sections of our society. And that perhaps is one of the most, one of the worst aspects of this story that we've seen about. Is this something that is common in your view?
No, absolutely. I would agree that reservation is a commitment by the government to give the people their due who are socially backward. And in this particular case, there has been a flagrant misuse of the entire provisions. But I would also say another thing, Madhav, that I'm sorely disappointed why action has not been taken till now. When evidence is staring in your face, the Gadi which he has got, that Peugeot or whatever she has, Audi, and 27 challans, the blue bacon, grabbing of the ante-chamber. Here is evidence staring on your face. The collector should have given her a show cause. And by the All India Service probationer rules, she could have been discharged by now. The duty officer of the All India Medical Institute kept sending her notices to appear. First, she said it's COVID, then she made some excuses, and that officer must be reporting to the DOPT or the collector or the chief secretary, but nothing happened again. The third case, her disability certificate, 2 certificates coming on 2 different addresses. That was another fraud. So what I'm saying is, when you have all this staring on your face, and then there is no action being precipitated, that shows a lot on the indecision of the bureaucracy. And I'm sorely disappointed with that.
All right. Karan Verma, 4 senior officers we have here in the studio. You have a difficult job of answering them. But they are saying, why is the center going so slow? It is a fortnight. It's not 1 or 2 days. It is a fortnight. Perhaps things are moving faster than they normally do, as Mr. Quraishi said. But yet no action on this officer. She's just been called to the institute. Why is it taking so much time?
I think, Madhav, what we are seeing is a multi-layered fraud at work. I mean, this has a lot of tentacles. It leads up to the mother, who's also being questioned now, the father, the assets which were not revealed. So, when we have a multi-layered fraud like this, we need some time to, unravel it so that, everyone can be nabbed. Just as we are speaking right now, the General Administration Department of the Maharashtra government has submitted its report to the DOPT. There is a 1-member committee that is looking into it. I am absolutely sure, as Mr. Quraishi just said, this government is not going to leave this behind. It is going to get to the root of it and make sure that they make an example out of this. Because what we've seen here, it brings a bad name to bureaucracy in totality. I have always believed that for every Puja Khedkar, there are at least 10 Ashok Khemkas who unfortunately get a bad name because of this one rotten apple. So I actually feel that they'll get to the root of it and make an example out of this.
All right, let's quickly take this across to T.S. Singh Deo, former Deputy CM of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Deo, your response to what you are seeing as far as what's happening in Maharashtra is concerned, a case of you've been in government, you have served at the highest levels. What do you make of this kind of blatant violation of what has taken place, particularly in this case of Puja Khedkar?
I have also had an opportunity to work as a public servant. My father too has been an administrative officer. He was an IAS officer. So we have a little experience from the outside of the administrative services, a bit of experience in the public field. And what is coming up is, in a way, surprising, even shocking, most unfortunate, but not the first of its kind. So we have people, we have individuals in society who cut corners. We have rules, we have systems that we make every attempt to see that the fairest possible procedures can be adopted. But there have always been people, and I suppose there will always be people who would want to cut corners. And the system as such, and those who represent it have to be very cautious, very careful, very vigilant to see that whenever any such thing comes up, they must take the promptest possible action, the fairest possible action.
Right. And we bring in Sushil Vyas on that because, Mr. Vyas, the question is that even at the level of the state government, it appeared that the state government is also going slow. You have instituted inquiries. Of course, she is a central government officer, but also as far as the state government, it seemed that the state government was also dragging its feet in this particular case. Would you agree?
Madhav, the same day when these things came to the light, immediately she was sent off from Pune to Wasim. And thereafter, when the single member panel was constituted, she was told to report to Masuri Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy. The question is that nobody is supporting, nobody is covering what she did. She did is the strongest possible word. Everybody should condemn, and we are also condemning the same thing. So this is not the way one should get the appointment in this IAS or IFS or the central government level. So Maharashtra government, as per the prescribed law procedure, as my co-panelists just now said, the GAD department already filed its preliminary report to DOPT Department of Government India, the department which only can take action or decision about the IAS officer or probationary officer. Here in this case, unfortunately, there are rules of 1954 All India Services, as well as there is a 1968 rule for IAS probationary officer. Now, as per that only one has to go and move. Unless, suppose we bypass any procedure, then due process is not followed. Immediately the applicant concerned will go to CAT, that is Central Administrative Tribunal, and obtain stay. We do not want that. The government wants the action should be taken in prescribed law and procedure. And once the procedure is followed, I am sure the acts which she did, she will be definitely discharged immediately from services on the report being filed by the single member panel, and that after another 2-3 days, because the time is expiring in 2-3 days.
Mr. Azad, do you agree with that premise? That all right, you want to come in on that, Mr. Singh?
Yes, please. Madhavji, there are two things that we can do immediately and handle departmental action. Suspension should have happened immediately. We did not do. We are handling this case with kid gloves.
Suspension from center or state?
Suspension in service, that you are placed under suspension.
Okay.
Suspension is not a punishment, and no departmental rules or regulations prevent us from placing a probationer under suspension. One, that gives a clear and unambiguous signal that we are no-nonsense attitudes towards such deviance in service. Number two, a time-bound inquiry, not something like a 5-year plan. If you had mentioned that 7 working days would be sufficient, which I feel would be sufficient, as we have had and we have done in critical cases which impinge upon our integrity and also our reputation, we take pains to ensure that the inquiry is completed in time. I've seen and I've heard the cases where the senior most officers had to resign because he belonged to the ICS, because there was just a lapse of 25 paise in the TA bill. He was made to resign because there was no question of dismissal at that time. He was made to resign. And here we have people gobbling up crores of rupees, and we are taking a time, marking time, posting here from Vashi and then to the academy. Why? Plus, first place her under suspension, announce 7 days, working days, the inquiry is over, and then take action as per law. The indication that we're too little coming too late.
Okay. Mr. Azad?
Madhav, I don't think the country has time for 14 full days to spend on a probationer who should have been given a show cause on the day itself by the collector when she was flaunting her car, when she was grabbing a, ante-room chamber, when she was putting a blue beacon, and she had already collected 27 challans. That's one very good ground for a show cause. And immediately she would have been discharged, because the word is discharge for the probationers and not dismisses for officers. The second was that she's not reporting for examination by the duty officer at the All India Medical Institute so many times when the DOPT has already been informed. So these kinds of things which should have been done already have not been done. And now the inquiry has taken a wider shape. And even now, if then she would have been discharged, the court process will go on. It happens in every case. So should we wait for that or should we take action?
Mr. Vyas, two clear violations over here. They are saying she could have been immediately discharged. There was enough grounds to do so. Why did the government somewhere fail to do that is a question coming up.
The government immediately taken action by forming that single member panel to go into it as per the law prescribed. And as far as you asked me the earlier question, the Maharashtra government immediately through its additional chief secretary relieved her from Maharashtra cadre. And now she been asked to go back to that academy at the Mussoorie. So she will be no longer as a Maharashtra cadre.
The state government can suspend.
No, it has been there 4 days back. See, that letter was issued to her 4 days back.
But that's the point. It took 10 days. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Unfortunately, being in a probationary of the IAS officer,
this level of treatment and giving a long road to such a deviant officer. Is not giving the appropriate signals anyway. Suspension should have happened the day itself. Show cause given the next day. And in 7 working days, you should have given the charge sheet and termination of the probation.
Mr. Quraishi.
Yeah, while I agree with both my colleagues that the immediate action should have been taken, she should have been just discharged. But the law is that during probation, you don't need to give a show cause notice. The moment you give a show cause notice, it opens up a whole possibility of litigation. Don't get it. Just say you are not required from tomorrow. No questions asked, no explanation given. That is the best and safest and quickest way to do it.
Let me also ask Mr. Jamshed. Mr. Jamshed, there's also a question as to if there were so many violations. One is the selection process. Then there is also a training process. Is there no verification that happens over there for somebody who's supposed to be disabled, etc.? There must be some checks and balances, because from what we've seen of Puja Khedkar, at least physically, there does not seem to be any disability. I mean, she has claimed visual and mental, etc. But at least physically, there doesn't seem to be any disability. And surely somebody in the academy would have noticed that.
Yeah, we've certainly, there are two aspects of this whole thing. One is her conduct as a probationary officer. I mean, we talked about that could have been placed under suspension right away, or maybe, there's a case for a dismissal from the service itself. But the root cause seems to be the recruitment. How she has been there. I mean, this is the most crucial aspect to my mind, because rest in any case will continue to follow. How she has been selected. Because there are 2 cases of the Central Administrative Tribunal. One was about when she wanted this to be declared 34-1, should also be kind of in terms of the number of percentage of reservation. That was dismissed by the principal bench. The second case was Mumbai bench of Central Administrative Tribunal, where about the medical examination, it was categorically mentioned, and the appeal that she should be absolutely, her candidature is cancelled. Should be treated as cancelled because she had not appeared for the medical examination on a number of occasions that she was given to. Now, all these things have been happening. Despite all this, how she gets to an allotment stage. I mean, I've seen number of cases, in fact, where UPSC keeps these cases pending in abeyance for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And these are the cases that continue to come for litigation in the high courts and the tribunals. That for certain reasons and for certain documentation, etc., no service is being allocated by the DOPT, and by the UPSC is also not recommending these names there. But in this case, she appears in an examination. She clears that examination. In what category, etc., is a different thing. Then is the allocation. But the allocation is made, a service is allotted, and she is posted as a probationary officer.
Is this a fit case for, reviewing or overhauling the kind of process that exists? Because multiple levels of checks seem to have failed over here, Mr. Azad.
You see, Madhav, in this case, let me say that the UPSC, when the UPSC gets an application, the application which supports the OBC category is backed by a certificate, by an officer, and also the disability certificate. So in cases, what happens is, where UPSC has a doubt, then they examine. But in most of these cases, it is the responsibility of the DOPT. And it's the DOPT where all these things are accumulated and where the actions are not taken. So now you're absolutely right. I feel there should be a review because every day today in the social media, you know, things are coming up. As you said, 17 more cases or other cases are happening all over. Therefore, it is time for a review, and the earlier, the better.
And Karan, I think you should come in on this because this is a fit case for reviewing overhauling because the system seems to have completely failed. All the checks and balances, you know, doctors certifying disability to, you know, caste certificates at the government level. And that's where the Maharashtra government also needs to come in. You know, all the government systems seem to have failed at the state as well as the central level. So this is a fit case for reviewing how this could have happened. Who knows? There may be many more Puja Khedkars out there.
Oh, there are thousands. I can tell you that.
Not a very reassuring thought.
No. I'm not just limiting it to the bureaucracy. I'm telling you this, and this has been going on. It's not just this government or the previous government. Yeah. In engineering institutes, we have many people who get these certificates, whether in the physically handicapped quota or in the OBC quota. IITs, we have them all across. And, you know, it starts from the certifying authority. How much can you put on UPSC and DOPT? If the certificate, if they get down to auditing every single certificate.
India, at the highest level.
Just hear me out.
We have to have some standards there.
We need to have some standards, but don't just, put UPSC in the dock for that or the department. We need this type of reform coming from the citizen himself. If we have a corrupt doctor who's ready to give you a certificate, if we have corrupt people who are ready to issue any certificate, it has to start from the citizen within. I mean, if we get the government we deserve, unfortunately, we get the officers we deserve. If we are hell-bent on, exploiting every single opportunity, for getting a way in through a fake certificate, through a fake document. I mean, we've seen people getting full airline refunds, giving certificates that they were not well enough to travel. This is the latest scam that is happening
Dr.
there.
Quraishi,
So
really
it has to come
simple?
from the citizen. Don't just blame the UPSC or the government.
You have a point. Corruption certainly is a social problem here in India. And as a society, we have to collectively resolve it. But, is it wrong to expect that the UPSC, which is, selecting IAS officers, seeing the highest level of government service officers across services, should there not be more stringent standards than these? Because this clearly shows how the system has completely failed.
Yeah. We have been discussing the responsibility of UPSC vis-a-vis the DOPT. Actually, both institutions are responsible, but at different stages. While these guys are only candidates, whether they're eligible or not, it is UPSC's job. DOPT doesn't come in. They would not know who these guys are. So whether age-wise they're eligible, physically and reservation-wise they're eligible, that is the job of the UPSC. Now this girl changed her name twice, her OBC certificate, and then mental. I think Supreme Court has given only 3 disabilities. Now mental is not, now imagine mentally retarded people start joining the service as a disabled people. That would be absurd. So therefore, the whole, as you rightly said, the whole policy needs to be reviewed because something is surely wrong. Now, and what is most dangerous, after this, some very innocent disabled people who have already joined the service, they will also come under a scanner. But this is not to say that some bogus have already not made an entry. That is also true.
Entirely
but
possible.
The innocent people
He
will
says
also,
thousands.
Yeah.
No, I want to add to this one.
In fact, yesterday I got a WhatsApp message which is very shocking, which shows that in one or two states, whole lot of people are getting entry showing themselves hearing impaired. Now, hearing impaired, I don't think that is a disability which is considered, and it is very easy to sham. You talk to me and I'll not answer you, so am I deaf? So it's very easy. So there are certain disabilities which can be just shammed.
Well, that's a scary thought there, but yeah, Karan.
Madhav, actually this government came up with a solution for that, and the solution was DigiLocker. In DigiLocker, what they wanted was that all your digital documents, whether it is any certificate, caste certificate, they should be uploaded. And the entire plan was to link it with blockchain. Once it's linked with blockchain, your entire stuff is out there with an electronic tag. So then it becomes very difficult to actually bluff and lie about it. So that is something that has been on its, they are on the path to accomplishing this. Unfortunately, it's taken a while. It's taken a while for
DigiLocker also.
For DigiLocker also to gain acceptance. The day DigiLocker is linked with blockchain, I think we are going to have a path-breaking innovation in eliminating and obliterating such weeds also.
All right. Is it really that simple, Dr. Vikram Singh? Just uploading documents online, is it going to be that simple?
There are horrible fault lines, and that requires a clear roadmap how to set things right, whether it is cumulative, whether it is contributory, or whether it is collective. But it is easier said than done. If Fort Knox can be attacked and compromised, then I dare say that those with devious mind, and I say with an element of certainty that these people who we are discussing just now have devious minds and they're fully capable of compromising whatever we have in store. But yes, we have to upgrade our system to make it fail-proof and foolproof.
You know, the government spends hundreds of crores in training of officers every year. And despite that, if you don't have adequate systems in place, isn't it an issue of concern, Mr. Azad?
You know, actually, the issue is, as Karan mentioned some time back, if the document itself is falsified, if you get a false document, you know, by bribing or whatever, then whatever you're uploading, after all, in computer is rubbish in and rubbish out. So whatever you load, if that is wrong, then it's a huge problem. That is what we have to look into while giving all these certificates. So I agree that, you know, as far as the training programs go, they are excellent. There's nothing wrong with the training programs. In fact, Madhav, do you have to be told that as an officer you should be committed and honest and, you know, devotion to duty?
That's
no,
basic.
Nothing. That's basic. And the training is absolutely fine, because no matter what your training is, there are people who are going to go wayward.
Let's go on to the next part of the story, and I'm going to go across to Mr. T.S. Singh Deo in a short while on that. And this is as far as Chhattisgarh is concerned, because the Public Service Commission scam there is extremely shocking as well. With gigs of Congress netas and, of course, several bureaucrats also getting plum posts. In fact, in the merit list, the top 5 rankers, including Shashank Goyal, who's been given the post of Deputy Collector, was in fact a senior Congress leader, Sudhir Katiyar's son in law. That's what we've been told. Let's bring the next plate. This is Bhumika Katiyar, who's the post of Deputy Collector, again related to senior Congress leader Sudhir Katiyar. The next frame we'll quickly look at as well is of Swarnim Shukla, who's related to Congress leader Rajendra Shukla's daughter. In fact, that's the post we've been told. One more is Ananya Agarwal, who's a senior Congress leader's daughter as well as Deputy Collector. Another name coming in, of course, is of Rajendra Kaushik, Deputy Collector, who's another senior Congress leader's son. And we have more details of Pragya Nayak, who's also Chhattisgarh Congress Neta's OSD's daughter, again appointed to the post of Deputy Collector. Prakhar Nayak is a Chhattisgarh Congress Neta's son as well, an official in the finance department. This is as far as the plum posts are concerned. It's not restricted to only them, because there are those who are, of course, the Congress Neta's brother-in-law's daughter as well, Khushbu Bijoria, again appointed to the Deputy Collector's post. And this list is very long in Chhattisgarh with about 17 names. Sumit Dhruv is the Deputy Collector who's posted there. He's son of the CGSPC Secretary, Jeevan K. Dhruv's son. That's the post that he has. The daughter of the ex-Governor's Secretary Amit Khalko, Neha Khalko, has been appointed to Deputy Collector as well. Nikhil Khalko is a Deputy Collector. He's the son of the ex-Governor's Secretary Amit Khalko. Another name coming up is of Sakshi Dhruv, the daughter of ex-DIG Buxar Naxal Operations PS Dhruv, post Deputy Collector. All of this is part of the FIR. All of this is part of the CBI's investigation. And of course, the PSC scam there in Chhattisgarh has been on for some time now. And I want to bring in Mr. Deo on this, because Mr. Deo, we have debated this before. But the magnitude of this, it's of course not just restricted to politicians. There are bureaucrats and their children also who have been given this. But it appears to be a huge scam. Something of this proportion, how could it have gone on? And, you know, it raises some very, very disturbing questions as far as the functioning of the public service commissions in India are concerned at the state level.
Most certainly. Most certainly. For one, I feel in a discussion, serious discussion of this nature, which you are having at a national level, one, we should keep the politics out of it. This party or that party, this is one thing we should not talk about. We should talk simply about the merits, because once we go into politics, then there would be any number of governments who would have similar scams or irregularities during that period. So one, my request would be, in discussions of this extreme serious nature, politics should not be mentioned. For example, you mentioned people associated with the Congress party. I, for one, don't know even one of them. I am not aware of even one of them. So they may be associated with the Congress. That does not make it right or wrong. The procedure through which they have been selected, an FIR has been lodged, it should be inquired into, and connections if the connections have been exploited, isn't that being the son of a particular officer, of a particular person who is associated with a political person? Does that person have merit, or is the selection on the basis of their association or their being the child or the relation of somebody in a position of influence or power? So sort this out.
No,
And
but sir,
take prompt and quick action.
the question
There
is
is
that in the
no
past, when the government was in power, it's ultimately about accountability, and which government is actually ruling is relevant to the kind of misuse of power or authority. To that extent, certainly the matter does have political implications. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that even during the Lok Sabha polls, when this issue came up, the Prime Minister had, of course, taken on the state government at that point of time. And at that time as well, there were allegations. There were those who said that, look here, this is a political issue, this is misuse of the central agencies. Do you think that that argument still applies now?
There is skepticism, certainly skepticism today in the country regarding the misuse of certain constitutional bodies, authorities. There is no doubt about that. Whether it is true or not true, that skepticism is certainly there in the minds of very balanced and serious people in the country. The Supreme Court has, when the Congress regime was there in the center, named the CBI a parrot. That time there was the Congress government. Today we have the BJP-led NDA governments for the last 10 years, now for the next 5 years. And we are talking of misuse of these government machineries. So there is skepticism. There is little doubt about that.
But
How
at
you
this
can go
scale,
beyond that? When you talk of accountability of a particular government, say the last government in Chhattisgarh, what about the NEET examination today?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. We have to hold every government accountable, where there are lapses, where citizens are affected, and where meritorious students don't get a chance, there are questions. But questions coming in of the center as well. Karan, and then to you, Dr. Singh.
You know, Madhav, it is so convenient, with due respect to the gentleman, take politics out of it when it is clear that there is one political party, namely the Congress in Chhattisgarh, which was hand in glove in perpetrating this corruption of the worst order. I mean, this is what we see, and he started with take politics out of it, to eventually he started casting aspersions on the agency. When the agency does its work expeditiously, when it registers the FIR with relevant sections, they start ostracizing the agency that this is now resorting to politics of vendetta. So the truth is, we have to fix accountability, as you rightly said, and it is the Congress party in Chhattisgarh which is hand in glove with this, and their heads should roll and they should answer to the public what they were doing when they were in power.
Mr. Deo.
Objectionable, highly objectionable. Highly objectionable. Somebody
What do you
should
say?
be making
In what way,
such
sir?
statements, such sweeping statements on national
what way,
level.
sir?
In which way is the entire Congress party responsible?
Sir, because leaders of the Congress party have been named. And it is the period of 2021 to 2023 when your government was in power, sir.
Wow.
Which leader has been named of the Congress party?
I just read out the whole
The
list
chief
of
minister
names.
was
I
named
read about 7 or 8 names.
No, not one of them count. Not one of them. I told you I don't know one of them. I am telling you the
Sir,
chief
from the
minister was
UPSC
named.
chairman,
And it
from
was
the State
alleged
Public
that
Service
the chief
Commission
minister's
chairman, to the
relatives had been
secretary,
that
to
day.
several of those names. You know, is this really an acceptable argument that, of course, he says he does not know, but if they are associated with the party, somewhere it's going to raise questions, is it not?
It's a stand of convenience, Madhavji, and the school, and this crime, organized crime at that, and the scandalous manner in which they gain entry are two sides of the same coin. And I would rather that they be treated as organized gang of criminals, and they should be treated under the National Security Act and other sections of law, and all those who facilitated their entry into the service and managed to get into it. Of course, they belong to a party. How can you divorce it? That is the motivation and the modus operandi, to be in the position of power and manipulate the wires in a manner so that you get your children and the undeserving ones inside the service through hook and by crook. How can you divorce politics from that?
All right, let me ask Mr. Deo, these are the specifics. Since you wanted the specific names, the CGPSC chairman's name is Taman Singh Sonawani. He's a retired IS officer. The secretary of the commission is Jeevan Kishore Dhruv. He's a retired officer, and of course, he was, of course, in the premises of the controller of examination, Raipur and Bhilai. The names of the Congress leaders you mentioned include, of course, the Chhattisgarh governor's secretary was one of them. We also have Congress leader Sudhir Katyar's daughter, Bhumika Katyar, son-in-law Shashank Goyal. So both the daughter and the son-in-law get posted. Another leader is Rajendra Shukla's daughter, Swarnim Shukla. Another Congress leader, Rajendra Kumar Kaushik. Are you going to say all of these people are not part of the Congress party, Mr. Deo?
Sir, haven't you mentioned government servants?
Of course. I'm not taking away from that. They are also part of this probe. But I'm saying it also includes netas during the time that your government was in power.
If I'm not mistaken, you took 7 or 8 names.
Yes. I can read out the rest if you want.
Out of those 7, out of the 8 names, the 7 you mentioned are government servants. So are we saying now that the government servants are also part of a political party? That is why I'm saying, please
No, it's misuse of power. Whether it is netas or babus doing it doesn't make it right. Both are wrong, sir. Both are wrong.
Absolutely pressurize them.
Absolutely. So don't make sweeping statements that the entire Congress party is corrupt. I am a part of
No. We're not making. No, that is one of the panelists' views. But the point is, it's going to raise serious questions.
That is exactly what I have said. And I'd like to
Sir, we have the first half of this debate, we have been questioning the government in Maharashtra, which is by no stretch of imagination a Congress government. The point is that these violations happen across states. And when these violations happen in the appointment process of our public service commissions, then it raises serious questions, Mr.
You can't
Deo.
equate what happened in Maharashtra with Chhattisgarh.
talk about individuals who have done the wrongdoing. Don't make sweeping statements. That is my only request. If you have to be serious at the national level, don't
Okay,
generalize.
one by one. Mr. Azad. Yeah.
One intervention. I belong to the MP cadre, and T.S. Singhdev is one of the most honest and forthright ministers of the Chhattisgarh government. So I understand his difficulty in answering this question. But one important point which I want to make, Madhav, is that PSCs have been in great reputation all over the country and from some time. In fact, PSC's appointments, deputy collectors and DYSPs are more important than the IAS and the IPS for the politicians. Most of the politicians want a deputy collector, promoted deputy collector as the collector rather than an IAS officer, and similarly in the case of DYSPs. Now, I had suggested, in fact...
Why is that the case? But can you explain that?
Because they belong to the state, they know everything. Professionally also, they can manage things better.
More pliable, you're
in
saying.
apostrophe. Well, I will not use that word. But one important thing, and that's why I had suggested in the police that at least the DYSP cadre should be abolished. Or you abolish the IPS. Because, then the others have a chance to go up. And today, the sub-inspectors who are coming are some of the brightest, with high tech value, technology, everything they have. So it will be the best if you either abolish this cadre or abolish the IAS and the IPS.
All right.
That's a very important.
Dr. Singh, you want to come in on this? You wanted to reply to Mr. Deo?
Yes, Madhavji, this is by no stretch of imagination. Is it a sweeping generalization? These are specifics. Like a mathematical algorithm. It is too easy for us to sweep these allegations underneath the carpet under some guys or the other. One line in Urdu, barbad gulsta karne ko ek hi ullu kafi hai. हर शाख पे उल्लू बैठा है अंजाम गुलस्ता क्या होगा.
All right, let's quickly on that note. Let me on that note quickly bring in the next set of graphics, and this is of course about the family of Puja Khedkar, because a lot has been spoken about. The reason we're discussing this is that the violations. I mean, her mother was seen on a video threatening a poor farmer over there, is what we are told, and this is the legal heat that the Khedkars are facing. There are separate probes that are underway for different violations. Puja Khedkar's probes we have looked at, of course, under the lens of the DOPT, the centers panel, etc. And she's been relieved from duty, has been asked to return, in fact, to the academy. But this is the image that had gone viral of her mother threatening a farmer with a pistol in her hand. And this has now led to her arrest on the 18th of July from Mahad in Maharashtra, very close to Pune. Also, of course, the arrest is for the threat that was given to these farmers at gunpoint, as I mentioned earlier. Also, as far as the father is concerned, who is also a retired officer, faces allegations of amassing disproportionate wealth, is what we are told. And the Pune ACB has launched an open inquiry against Dilip Khedkar. That's the information as far as the Khedkars are concerned. Let's quickly open this out and take this across to our panelists as well. Mr. Quraishi, what happens to Puja Khedkar is, of course, an issue of national concern. But just look at the side story that's happening as far as the parents are concerned. There are those who are saying that this is the kind of background, and her father's an officer, and yet there are these charges. So they're saying pretty much that the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree, which appears to be the case in Puja Khedkar's story.
Quite right. The corruption in bureaucracy is debated all the time, and unfortunately, it has increased over the years. All of us, from our time, we were so conscious. Even if we took a detour in our car by 1 kilometer, our heartbeat will go up. Not anymore. No, and when I was a probationer, unlike this young lady, We used to go in a cycle rickshaw.
Yes.
Nothing more than we were entitled to, and we never complained. And in fact, I remember my collector, Mr. H.V. Goswami, there was an election in 1972 and he made me a presiding officer of a single booth, whereas other officers were supervisors. I, of course, showed it on my face and he says, Beta, bada afsar to tu zindagi par rahega. This is the only time when you have to work hands-on and you understand the reality. And that lesson I have remembered for life. And secondly, I would like to mention one anecdote. First lesson in management and humility which I learned in my first posting as SDM of Sonipat. I had a very old Mali gardener, old man, and who was obviously because of his age could not do his job well, and I scolded him once. You know, all he said was, "Sir, aap mere 28वें SDM hai." No, I took the lesson, look, I'm 28, there will be 29th tomorrow. He's going to stay, and what am I talking about? So that taught me a lesson in humility for life. So that is what we should understand. If we start throwing our weight around, I had only scolded the Mali. Here is some lady who is very brave and bold and
that's not even a government official. That is some farmer whose land she was allegedly tried to usurp. But let me put this question across to Mr. Vyas. Mr. Vyas, you know, so many cases going unnoticed about the family members. There are various probes that are now being done. And of course, serious questions about the kind of assets that Puja Khedkar owned. The fake certificates is a question where once again, as Karan has raised, you know, corruption within our system, whether it is the hospital, whether it is those who gave the caste certificate, you know, there are serious questions over here. Will the administration probe all these aspects also as to how these certificates could have been issued in the first place?
Definitely, Madhav, it has to be probed and it has to be verified again. As one of my co-panelists was saying, the things should be reviewed. Yes, this has a grave concern. It should be reviewed. And as far as the parents are concerned, I told you other day also, they will be arrested and mother is arrested and father will also be arrested for their wrongdoing. See, you can't threaten somebody with pistol in open ground and grab the land. And see, unfortunately, the earlier law prior to 1st July this year, 2024, the Indian Penal Code, all sections which were leveled against that Manorama Khedkar, the mother of Puja Khedkar, were bailable offence. Now, after this video came on social media, about 13th or 14th July, the additional charge of attempt to murder, that is under IPC 307, was leveled, and that's why she's been arrested. She has been arrested from Raigad, some hotel, and now she will be prosecuted. She is now granted police custody, and father is also absconding. We are looking for him, and he will be arrested and will be taken to the as per the law prescribed.
Okay, the IPC and the BNS was coming in the way, Mr. Azad.
I think definitely the attempt to murder charge is a little overstatement. I don't think that should have been. Yes, flashing a gun, that's wrong, and making
intimidation for sure.
Intimidation, but it's not shouldn't be that.
Right. Mr. Jamshed, I'd like you to come in on this because, you know, here you have a system where you have an IS officer, you have his daughter. The questions are going to be asked. As I was asking Mr. Quraishi, the background also matters and it's quite evident in this particular case.
So background apart, I mean, I would not like to be judgmental about the whole thing. I mean, tomorrow we'll be discussing about an extended family of Dr. Puja Khedkar and who all are doing what. I mean, the cousins are doing this and the sister-in-law is doing that. No, that's perhaps not the point. The point is, I mean, again, I'm coming back to that and it would be naive on my part, in fact, to kind of decide on what exactly had happened because this is a surmise. But they are all assumptions. And she has appeared in an examination. She has gone herself, she has appeared in an examination, she cleared the interview and also she has been selected. There was a certain rank, etc., 800 or something, and she should not have been given some other service. But she took advantage of that kind of a caste certificate and also the medical that she had not done. I mean, these are the crucial points, in fact, that need to be taken now. The last thing was February 2023 CAT order of cancellation of her candidature because she has not appeared for the medical examination. Since then, it has been 1.5 years. We have been talking about that 72 hours, 30 days, etc. I mean, it should be done now. I mean, I think it's high time that final action should be taken after that inquiry committee, not even 7 days for that matter, even 3 days. All these papers can be brought together in Delhi and the case can be decided.
Dr. Vikram Singh, closing comments. What should the government be doing now? As a senior officer, when you see this kind of a case, what should be done immediately?
Madhavji, exemplary punishment. You have to be cruel to be kind. At least give an example, the fact that we have zero tolerance to corruption and corrupt practices, and anybody who aids and abets corruption should be dealt with very, very firm hands.
All right. On that note, we're going to wrap up. All right, Mr. Quraishi wants to come in. Yes.
Yeah, I want to say that what the government should do is to discharge her because during the probation period without any explanation. And the second step will be for all the fraud which she had committed, investigation can go on, but after her dismissal from service without giving any reason, which is possible, which is provided in the law.
All right, Mr. Azad.
And the last point I would say that there must be an overall review of the system so that we don't have people here using fake disability certificates and also OBC certificates.
All right. That's certainly a big lesson, certainly the manner in which these certificates are issued and, of course, the safeguards that need to be put in place. I'd like to thank all our panelists, Mr. Jamshed, Yashovardhan Azad, Dr. Vikram Singh, Dr. SY Quraishi, T.S. Singh Deo, Karan Verma and Advocate Sushil Vyas. Thanks so much for joining us on the National Debate today.